this next one's kind of hard to talk about. It's not really a story that I particularly am proud of. I'm proud of it in certain aspects and not so in the other. And this is the story of Harold. So over the last 3 or 4 years, Garrett and I have been trying to, as one of our main across the board goals, to kill a buck in October, because we feel like if you're killing a buck in October, anytime you're killing them by design rather than a deer that's just kind of winding its way through the woods during the rut. And so over the last 3 years, we've had lots of opportunities and killed some really nice deer in October, and this October was no different. I think the first really good thing, yet kind of mistake that we made this particular deer season was it would have been a Thursday night. Right before Garrett and the rest of the guys left to go antelope hunting, we put out a mock scrape line, which has been very successful for us in the past. So we have this product by Code Blue. It's called Grave Digger. We make our mock scrapes. We set our cameras up facing those, and they monitor them. Well, it's no later than 3 hours after we've set our mock scrape line up that a buck that we call Marshall, Harold, and Steven are just running hot laps through there. And over the weekend, I wasn't going to go hunting because I'm like, I'm not going to be able to get it on film or have the quality of footage that I want to. So even though those deer are showing up in daylight on our scrapes and like the first week of October, I'm not going to do it. I know that the film's going to be low quality, so I'm just going to stay out of there. Fast forward 2 weeks, we have our first cold front, and we set up a scrape line, again, in a different location. And at this time, the deer have kind of established their bedding areas, and we've got a particular bedding area that's kind of a long, skinny strip at the end of a finger that runs north and south. And we noticed that very close to daylight, on one of our mock scrape lines, there's a buck called Harold that's visiting that particular scrape. It's like the third weekend in October. When it's starting to get really good there, we see a good drop in temperature. We'd hung a pair of summits anticipating a north wind coming in. Here our view is, we got corn to our north. There it's going to trim out a lane. And to our south, we think the deer are coming from over there and bedding based on data from a trail camera. It's like right there on the scrape. We think they're coming over from here, kind of going like this and right to our scrape. And down to our south, there's a big ridge. I don't know if you can hear in the background, there's a combine that's actually taking out those lower fields. So this is south. So there's these two, like, coming off this branch right off the top side, which I can get these two. Yeah, I can get these two and open this up. And so north wind was the wind we needed to ideally hunt this spot, and we hung the pair of stands the weekend before, anticipating the following weekend. As a 9 to 5 workers, we don't do this full time, so we have to put a lot of stock into what's going to go on the weekend. So we hang our stands up all week. The buck that we called Harold is continuing to circulate through this mock scrape line that we've built, and on Saturday we get in there. Here we go. Here we go. As you can tell by the look of the buck beard, we haven't killed a buck yet. But we hung this pair of summits specifically for this wind. Last weekend, Garrett and I went back and forth and ultimately ended up going coyote hunting because we didn't want to mess this stand up. Now time to make some noise. Nice and quiet. Alright, let's see if the 10 points are better than 8. And we rattle. And it's no sooner than about 8 minutes that we rattle that I'm kind of sat down facing away, and I see Harold come in, and he comes to 5 yards within our tree. he makes a scrape. He circles around through a gate hole. So we kind of put the stand on this particular spot because that gate hole acts as a natural pinch point. And he comes and circles through the gate and acts like he's going to veer and go away. Garrett takes the grunt tube, gives a couple grunts, and he whirls around. And keep in mind, the course of this encounter, it's very quiet that night. And this deer is within 30 yards of us for about 6 minutes. We just didn't have a shooting lane cut when he comes up the original time. So Garrett grunts, and he whirls around. And this is when I make the big mistake of my deer season. So the deer then, when Garrett gives the grunts, he comes like loping in. So he's on the trot. So I'm thinking, well, he's going to be, somewhere in between 18 and 30 yards, the edge of the field. I'm like, okay, top pin, this is going to be fine. And I draw back, I settle in, and I stop him. Matt.
Bet. Got
him. I should have known, I've stopped a deer before, and I should have known that when a deer's coming in and it's on the lope or the trot, that when you stop a deer, typically they're going to get low. And I just didn't compensate for that. So I held like what I thought to be about dead center of the lungs, and I release. He gets a little low. Like I said, I should have aimed for his heart. That was a big mental F up on my part, and I hit him high and a little forward of what I wanted to. And I just didn't get very much penetration at all.
Dude, you have no idea how freaking my arrow's shaking. It's so dead quiet out here right now. Just because he was gonna go the other way. He was gonna go the other way. Garrett and I just shot Harold. Yeah, the big 8-pointer. Oh wow. Yep. That was incredible. So let me show you what this deer did. For everybody that's watching. We're up in there. Those are the summits that we put in there last weekend. Garrett and I went back and forth and ultimately decided not to hunt it to keep it fresh. And boy, are we glad we did. And he came right here. That's where I saw him, right there. And then he comes right here. He comes right there, freaking makes a scrape at 6 yards from the base of our tree. Keeps going to our mock scrape that we made, and our mulchies let us know that he was doing that. That's why we came in here tonight on this wind, on this cold front to hunt him. It's because he came in here on our mock scrape line, just like exactly what we did to Lucky last year. He came in and tore this scrape up, came in and tore this tree up. Yep. He was standing right here. He was standing right here when he got past our scrape line, and Garrett gave him the kiss of death. And he loops around, comes right over here.
So we get down, go assess the blood. There's not a ton of it. We go home, watch the footage. We look at a bunch of whitetail vital area maps, and we're thinking, okay, we're at least going to give him till tomorrow.
All right, well, unfortunately, I only got about 8 or 9 inches of penetration, so we're going to back out, come back in for him in the morning.
We go back the following morning, find a little bit of blood, and we're going down the blood trail, and about 150 yards down it, from where we had shot him actually, he was bedded, and we spook him up out of his bed, and he runs off. And at that point, it started to rain, and then we lost the blood, and then we decided not to pursue him. I guess the only good thing about this whole ordeal, like I said, is a big mental mess up on my part. I should have held lower. I should have known that when he was coming loping in on the trot, that he was going to duck as soon as I stopped, but I don't know why I held higher. It was a big mental lapse on my part, but we wanted to tell you the story because that's how it happened. And even though the story sucks and doesn't have a happy ending, the one good thing is that about 10 days after this encounter had happened, we got Harold back on trail camera and continued actually to hunt him the rest of the year. We didn't end up catching back up with him in the deer season of 2019, but he's going to be a deer that we try to go kill in the future.
If you like listening to hunting stories as much as watching them, then check out our podcast. The Last Breath Huntcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, and all other major podcast platforms.